My name is Shay Scott. I live in, I saw that funny comment. I live in Los Angeles, actually in a little small beach city called Playa del Rey,
Okay.
and my business is Pilates by Shay.
Amazing. Are there other Pilates studios in that immediate area? Now, I know California has a ton of Pilates studios, but is there any like pretty close to you?
There was one that actually one that I used to work at, and she closed. It was called Yasmin Pilates, and
Mhm.
now it's a chain. Someone else bought it. I think it's called like White Room or something like that.
Okay.
Then there's a couple of private, smaller studios, but the big ones like the any of the franchises or chains.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm wrong. There's Art of Pilates in downtown Playa. So there's quite a few, but they're all pretty small and boutique-ish.
Yeah, 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 yeah. How much collaboration is there amongst you small boutique type studios?
Not much.
Okay. Is it like churches like the Methodist church is beside the Pentecostal church beside the Catholic church and they don't talk to each other?
Correct. And there's a lot of, contemporary classic. I use this, I use that. So that kind of goes a lot back and forth here.
Right. I remember sorry for bringing in the church talk right out the gate. I don't even know where you land at
Oh, no, it's
spiritually, but that was one of my first reflections, and Joel might appreciate this too. That was my first reflections when I got into Pilates, and I did peak Pilates. I did some like special interest type courses earlier. Hey, Jason. And then when I got into the more of the apprenticeship and then really diving deep into classical, it's like this is like church. Like this is like a religion. Like you are now subscribing to this denomination of Pilates.
Yes,
I was
it's
like,
it's kind of,
what?
I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Right. And right. So then because of that, I had to go back. I mean, like I talk about my counseling degree all the time, but my degree is a master's in divinity in counseling. So I went to seminary to do my master's to focus on the counseling side because I did more of a secular undergrad. Anyway, so that being said, I kind of have my angle on denominations and all this stuff. So I came back to, as I say a lot on the show, what is the main thing? Like when you're talking religion, you say like the main thing is to keep the main thing,
Mhm.
not to get caught up in the weeds of the dogma behind it, but it comes back, if we're talking Pilates, to movement and all these different things. So like it's just interesting how we go through all this stuff, but we have to come back to movement itself. So I'm not gonna throw like a little softball out to you. I'm actually gonna throw a hard ball at you right out the gate.
Okay.
What is the main thing for you when it comes to Pilates?
Wow. Yeah, that's
I figured you could handle it.
I can handle it, but I gotta go back a little bit. First, I want to say hi to Sonia, and I saw Tiffany on here.
Yes, what's going on?
But there's a couple things. So I started in movement. I was actually introduced to ballet at the age of 3.
Okay.
And I've danced my entire life, all the way through college, from high school through college. And then I had the opportunity to start the dance team for the Detroit Pistons. There were only 2 teams in the
Really?
NBA that did not have a dance team, and it was the Pistons and the Boston Celtics at the time.
Okay.
So through a bunch of
Wow.
visualization,
Yeah.
we'd have to have another story about
Yeah,
that.
I'm totally enthralled in this story. Like, forget my setup. This is way better. Go on.
But to get through visualization, I got to a certain point. And so movement has always, always, always been a part of my life. Um, and this is a story that I'm sure many dancers have heard. At some point, Pilates was introduced because of an injury.
Mhm.
And it was introduced to me. My teacher at the time wasn't a certified Pilates instructor, but knew who Joseph was and had taken classes with him. So she kind of incorporated, and this is back in Michigan, she kind of incorporated some of the movements for injury.
Yes.
So fast forward all the way to Pistons, where it became more of a show. So yes, I had to have dancers. I had to have the body, the mind, the gumption, the time, but realizing that the movement is what connected these women at the time.
Yes.
And it's always for me been about movement. And when I left there and I moved to Los Angeles, I kind of always wanted to stay in the movement. I tried so many different, I'm the girl that I tried the workout where you put those kangaroo shoes on and you jump up and down on the beach.
Right.
I've done it all. And so I was introduced to Pilates by a girl. I used to sling alcohol in the bars, for lack of a better word.
Yes.
I sold vodka, and I was in a bar doing a promotion, and there was a young lady in there that was a Pilates instructor, and she introduced me to it. And all she kind of kept saying was that movement was not just for the body, it was for the mind.
So wait,
that's what kind of...
So Pilates people drink? I'm just kidding. Sorry, it's
vodka.
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 Okay, yeah,
Only vodka.
None of those sweet drinks.
And a little bit of sake.
Okay. Sorry.
And she just kind of kept saying that Pilates was not just movement of the body, it was also movement for the mind. And for some reason, it just kind of stuck to me. And I went to her, and that was like 11 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. And she was the one that her name is TJ. She was the one that kind of had me fall in love with Pilates, for lack of a better word. And I think for me, it was connecting the mind and the body, which after I left ballet, in dance world now, it's again another conversation. It's a whole different thing, but it brought me back to connecting the mind and the body. And I hope that answered your question in a long-winded way.
Yes, no, it did. And for the record, Sonia is saying that Hennessy and milkshakes are the way to go. So
the bar. Oh, Sonia, you got to make me one when I get to New York. I've never had one.
All right. I have a rum collection. I'm afraid to try other things in case I like them too. So I just stayed with the one thing. But yeah, movement, and I love the word movement. With that, I even changed my business card from Pilates instructor to sport conditioning specialist to personal trainer to movement specialist, because it's about movement, right? And whether it's like movement, from a counseling perspective, emotionally, moving from a place of getting stuck to getting unstuck, or physical conditioning, it really is movement, right? And then there's also the flip side to that, like the double entendre is that this is a movement. Like we're getting people to understand that they need something in their life other than just this treadmill of work and whatever. Right? So in terms of your space, like, do you have like your own studio that you work in, or your home studio, or like what's that format for your business?
I'm actually renting a space. So when I was at Yasmin Pilates, when they started to announce that they were going to close down, there was a young lady out there, Donna. I don't know if Donna's on here, but Donna decided she wanted to open a small boutique space. So it is a very small space that I rent from, and there's 4 or 5 of us. Okay. She gave us days as our days, but we can kind of teach as long as there's space in the studio, and it's one-on-one only.
Okay. So she has a space, and then you have a dedicated day that you can come in. You can train from bell to bell on that day, plus whatever other gaps there are, but that's your day.
Yep, I have Saturday and Sunday, believe it or not.
Wow, that's money.
I do have a full-time job.
Okay.
And I call it a job because it's a job that pays the bills. It's not my passion.
Okay.
So I do work Monday through Friday, from like 9-ish till when I get done. Mm-hmm. And I teach Friday evenings, Saturdays, and Sundays.
Okay, nice. Do you have aspirations to like wean yourself off of your full-time job and then make this a full-time hustle?
Movement and fitness as a full-time hustle. So not necessarily just Pilates. I'm
Yes.
also certified in stretching,
Hmm.
which has some contradictions with Pilates as I constantly educate myself. But yes, I want to stay in the fitness, movement, mind, body, and spirit community. I would love to do that full time.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Any plans to do that? Like, you have any kind of strategies in place long term, or just kind of if it happens, it happens?
So
I know
this
it's
is what
exposing
this
your
is.
whole master plan now.
Oh no, no, no. This is what's kind of fun. So my husband is likes to sail boats.
Okay.
So he is looking at getting a catamaran where we would basically live on it maybe 6 to 8 months.
Hmm.
So floating through the Caribbean. So I want Pilates by Shay
Yes.
on the boat. And as we dock,
Yes.
I teach classes on the sand. That's my goal.
What?
Yes, through the Caribbean.
Oh, that sounds grueling. Sounds rough. Yeah. That, yeah. Anyone want to register for that right now? I'm sure you can get, like, this is your pre-sale office right now. Anyone wants to
Right.
sign up, you can just like put it in the comment section there. She'll follow up. We'll have one of our, that's amazing. Amazing. And actually
The,
it's,
the sailing the sailing community is interesting because they all know each other. They know where they're going to be. You always kind of hear, I think it's a sector that you don't know unless unless someone tells you. So I didn't know it even existed, but there's actually a young lady that she teaches silks. So
okay.
they dock the boat and they may be docked for 12 days. Everybody in the sailing community, they know where each other is at.
Mm,
So they know she's going to be docked in Turks and Caicos for a week.
yes.
She'll teach silks. She has silks and trees that she's found, and she'll do a silk class on a Tuesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And like 20 people show up. And they're all, yeah. Then there may be people on the island, there may be tourists,
Yeah.
and she does it like once or twice a week. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a great business model.
That's a great business model.
Yep. You don't have equipment. You don't have to worry about, paying rent. She has silks. She finds the trees and she teaches. I keep telling her whenever we get out, I'm going to come take one of her silk classes. So I've been in touch.
That's crazy. Okay, that's the first time I've heard of that. Or your catamaran, like docking Pilates. Nice.
Hey, it's worth a try.
What? Yeah, Joel's like, what a great gig. No, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly. I love that because I always talk about like who your ideal client is, what's your niche, who's your all these different things. This is the first I've heard of this as a niche. So run with it.
Hey, doesn't work, try something else. That's been my motto. I've done many, many things,
Mhm.
and if it doesn't work, try something else.
Yes, exactly. Can we circle back to the Pistons for a minute though?
Absolutely.
I know we don't have to talk Pilates the whole time. I mean, like, how did you land that gig, dude?
Okay. So, as I said, I was dancing my whole life.
Mhm.
I was a dancer at Michigan State. At the time, it was Michigan State dance team was called Motion.
Okay.
And my mother lived across the street. I don't know if there's any basketball people on here, but my mother lived across the street from Greg Kessler. And Greg played with Magic with the Spartans when they were Big Ten champions.
Wow.
So I was dancing at Michigan State. He was the color commentator for Michigan State Spartans.
Mhm.
I competed in beauty pageants to pay my way through college. I won a pageant, and they were called, wait, let me remember, President Tuxedo Girls. If you
Okay.
go on my personal IG page, you'll see a picture of me
Yes.
as a President Tuxedo Girl.
Okay.
And we wore, this is funny, we wore black pantyhose with the dance briefs and heels on the bottom. And then up top, we wore a tuxedo and tail.
Okay.
And what we used to do is escort people out to the court to make the 3-point contest, all the
Oh,
contests that you
yeah.
see dance team girls do.
Yes.
So, because the Pistons didn't have a dance team. So Greg also did color commentating for the Pistons. So I'll make the story short. So I used to drive back and forth from East Lansing to Auburn Hills for Pistons games and then dancing at Michigan State games.
Yes.
And him and one of the known one of the other commentators, George Blaha, used to see me do this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So they came to me and they said, Shay, don't you think the Pistons should have a dance team? But I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So however they did it, they got me an interview in front of Tom Wilson, who was the president of Palace Sports and Entertainment at the time,
Okay.
and Pete Scorridge, who was the president of Multimedia.
Yes.
So and they brought all these vice presidents and presidents in of the organization. Now I'm like maybe 22. So had I been older, I would have been freaked out. But I walked in there like, hey, you should have a dance team. And my major was apparel design. So
Okay.
I had actually sewn costumes that I thought that the girls should wear.
Right.
So I go into this meeting with no fear at 20-something years old.
Yes.
And I walk out and they're like, thanks for the presentation, but we're not interested.
Right.
Now in my mind, I'm like, oh, hell no. I did all this. They're getting a dance team.
What?
I called there every solitary month for a year and a half, the first Wednesday of every month.
Yeah.
Yes. Every month, the first Wednesday. And Judy Romero was Tom Wilson's secretary.
Yes.
Hey, Judy, the Pistons ready to start a dance team yet? Let me check with Tom. She put me on hold. She come back. No, Shay, they're not ready. All right, call you back next month. Click. I did this for a year and a half. Yes.
Tenacity.
One Wednesday, I called.
Yes.
Judy picks up the phone and goes, you can stop calling. You can start tomorrow. I almost fell out of my chair.
Oh.
Yeah. And it was in August of that year. It was in August of 96.
Yes.
It was a Wednesday. I came in on that following Monday. I literally did everything by myself. And anybody who knows a basketball season, it starts in September.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have to do something that's never been done in that arena. Clothes, girls, choreography, opening night, all by myself. Somehow I did it and pulled it off.
Wow.
But that was the start of, and we had a contest to name them. And everybody thinks I had something to do with it. But they got named Automotion at the time. So they thought I did it because Michigan State was motion.
Right.
But it was a contest. I had nothing to do with it. And Automotion debuted in October of 1996.
Wow.
And that's how I was there. I was there for 7 years. Yep.
That is so inspirational. Like anytime I hear stories like that, I'm like, that tenacity, like, how many of you out there would have given up by month 3, right? Show of hands. Like, because cause you think, okay, they're not interested, but like, yeah, that youthful zeal, fearlessness is what just pushed you through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it was just something, and I think it might have been my mother. Somebody introduced me to The Secret. And so after, it was one of those things like I knew I wanted to do it, but I didn't know how much I wanted to do it until I had that presentation.
Yes.
So I actually used to get in my car at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning and drive to the Palace. That's where the Pistons used to play.
I remember, yes.
Like that was my route to work. I would get dressed and drive. And I would do that once or twice a month. Mm-hmm. And sit in the parking lot, act like I was in an office, just visualize it. And then I would drive home. I would draw costumes. I would sew costumes. I did all kinds of stuff. Just
lived it out, eh? Just lived it out.
And that first day driving on that Monday in August, I was like, I already know what's going to happen because I've already done it.
Yes, that's right. That is right.
Yeah. It was surreal. I'll say it was surreal. It was something that, to be honest, I know you and I had talked about embracing you.
Yes.
To be honest, I have to remind myself that I did that. I don't think like that anymore. I think I've been a little bit jaded. In moving to LA, you can get jaded. But, you know, I have to remind myself that believe it, visualize it, do the homework. It doesn't just happen. You have to do the homework.
Yes.
But just do it and believe it, and things will happen. Like, I look at so many people on Instagram through Pilates that are opening studios, actually opening studios now when a lot of places even can't be open yet or partially open. Yeah. So I know that took work. Yes, manifest. It took work and thought and processes and believing to get to that point where you can open your studio. Or I can't remember, name is slipping me, the lady that came out with the cards, the Pilates cards, Leslie Logan. She came out with some Pilates cards. Like, I know that didn't happen overnight.
Right.
So I look at things and I know that social media, for lack of a better word, thinks people just blink and stuff happens overnight.
Right.
That it's been hours and years. Like, I don't know about your studio. I don't know how you opened and what you did, but I know it didn't happen overnight.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No, this is a COVID baby, much like Core Conversations, right? Like July, I'm already in the studio. This is high octane training, and I do my personal training out of here. And I have like a reformer in the corner on the floor, and you know, I just take people there on the floor, whatever. But then as COVID happened, and then my contract was ending with the city, I was like, okay, now's a good chance to just dive into this. And I took this 200 square foot lunchroom you see behind me, and basically said, like, we can make a studio here. And Andrew and I, we fleshed it out, figured out what that would look like. And then I sent a text message to a lady that I know that has had this equipment. And I just sent her a message that said, hey, I know you're not selling your equipment, but I was wondering if you knew anyone who had any Grotz equipment or whatever, so I could just start the space. And she said, well, if you want some equipment, I'll sell you these pieces, because, you know, with quarantine and COVID rules, we need, you know, more space, like 6 feet between things. So I'm going to sell every other piece. So I think it's probably the first time I told this story. So so she's like, I'll sell you this equipment. So, okay, good. How much? She gave me a price. And I was coming on about it, and I thought, well, I don't have that money, so I need to, you know, raise that money or borrow that money, or how I'm going to get this money and all those things. So I finally figured that out. I sent her a message again and said, you know, I like to negotiate. She gave me one number. I'm like, okay, I'm in. And I thought about it. I was like, you know what? That's kind of high. Do you think we can go better on that? Or can you give me a break on the price? And she responded and said, listen, this equipment isn't for sale. I'm just selling it to you because you asked, and I know that what you're doing is good and that we can work together down the road and all those different things. So I'm selling it to you, but it's not for sale. I was like, okay, your number's fine, thanks. Just like, and I bought it off her. So then that was it. So it was just the right timing of my contract ending, the space being underutilized, this person who was not selling equipment who, you know, decided to sell it to me. And then we just ran with it from there. But yes, it's, you know, the saying is it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, right? So.
Right. And timing is everything. I believe everything happens in the universe for a reason, a season, and a moment in time.
Yes.
And things happen. It was meant for you to reach out to her. It was meant for her to get that equipment to you, because now it's blossomed into everything that you're doing now.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we don't understand why things are happening when they're happening, but the end of it, whether you think it's good or bad, you know, you may have some interview, some job set that you really, really want, and you go, and this is the company, and you do all your research, and you're ready for the interview, and you think the interview is great, and then you don't get the job.
Right.
The job was not for you.
It wasn't for you.
And that's where I say, you know, you have to be in that moment. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to have emotions and feelings and be disappointed and be upset. Absolutely. Or let down, but know that there's something else There's just that's how I have to keep going. There's something else, because there's so many disappointments in life that happen, but so many good things come out of it, and things you wouldn't expect. Like the whole boat thing. I never even thought about. I don't want to sail. I always joke around. I'm not flipping the jib to the left of the starboard port and all of it. I'm not doing all of that.
Yeah.
But I'll teach Pilates on the beach.
There you go. Just find your niche. And that's exactly it, right? Like, I feel like that too. When a door closes, I'm like, well, that wasn't for me. The right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing. So I look at it that way too. It's like, okay, well, there's something better for me coming. And but feel that disappointment. Like, feel it. Yeah, like it's okay to feel it, and then you move, right? So.
Yep.
Yeah. That I'm still on the Pistons thing for a second. It's fine. I'm circling back one more time, just because. How did it feel? Even just I gave you permission to brag for a moment, and I'm really feeling like that's one of those things that in this time when people are just like caught up in themselves and they're feeling like everything's so down and they're just trying to survive. When you give the permission to just brag, what have you done? What are your accomplishments? You established a dance team, a dance pack for the Detroit Pistons. I am speaking to the woman that started that. That's cool. That is really cool.
When I was in it, I'll say, let me say, it was the best thing that I've ever done career-wise. To be able to do something that it combined everything that I loved.
Yes.
Dance, movement, clothing. Yes. I did so much in it. Yes. Mentoring, which is something else I love to do.
Yes.
It also I love basketball. Like, I can watch babies play and run into each other all the way up to the pros.
Yes.
So it had my love of sports. Mm-hmm. I also I realized things that I've learned about myself. I like things that have a start and a finish.
Yes.
So ongoing projects are fine, but I like to see start, work through, develop, and then finish. And start, work through, develop, and finish. And yes. And with the Pistons, there were several things every game was a start, work through the game, it's over. We got to get to the next game. Mm-hmm. Same mentality that the players had. They play that game. When it's over, you look at the film and you see what you did, but it's time to move on to your next opponent, study your next opponent, and the next game.
Yes.
So it had that for each game. It had it for each season. Mm-hmm. So in each season, I had auditions. The team was not the same. I did have a core group of girls.
Yes.
And I had some challenges. I had some, Sonia will appreciate this. I did have some racial challenges because I was a Black woman. I was the team is the Detroit Pistons, but they were not located in Detroit. They were about 45 minutes away, yes. Which had always been a point of contention. They're now back in the city, mm-hmm. But that had always been a point of contention. And in my very first year, I only had one Black girl on the team. So that started, I got called every name under the sun. Mm-hmm. It started a whole big thing about how the Pistons were racist. I didn't know I was Black. I must have been raised by a white parent because yes. I didn't recognize my Blackness. They even went so far to say that I was Tom Wilson, that I was his mistress. Like, it went ugly. So far off the deep end. Yeah, wow. It got really, really ugly. And the one Black girl on the team, shout out to Nicole Burnett, she endured it as well. So I had to kind of embrace her separate from the rest of the team to let her know.
Yes.
But it wasn't that I didn't do it on purpose. It was what showed up. It was who could do the work and who was committed.
Yes.
I wasn't looking at color. It had to happen like this.
Yes.
As the years went on, it increased, the diversity increased on the team as when I was there, but it was probably one of the biggest challenges, because I got told daily by people in the organization I shouldn't be there. I was only there because I was Black. Mr. and Mrs. Hill at the time, Grant was playing for the Pistons at the time, approached me and told me, I'll never forget this. Grant and his mother came up to me and said, no matter whatever you do, never, ever, ever let them see you cry or sweat. And I was standing in the tunnel, and Grant said it, and I just looked at him and I was like, okay. And that just it kind of fueled me and kept pushing
Game face on. That's right.
All the time. But it was hard. It was hard.
Yes. I commend you for that.
I know we could talk about Pistons forever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. But at the same time.
Oh, and then we got a WNBA team. I forgot. We got a WNBA team. So then I called the Pistons my girls and the Shock team my children, because they were between the ages of 14 and 18, a boy and girl mixed entertainment team that I had as well.
Oh, wow. Sounds busy. Yeah, it sounds like a lot. That's exciting. And all that you're saying there too, Shay, is that celebration of marrying all of your passions at the same time, right? And when you're marrying all of those passions, that also gives you fuel to endure the setbacks, the challenges, the hurdles, all those different things, because you're flowing in that area of passion. Like there's a grace there to do that you would not have been equipped with otherwise. Otherwise, you'd be like, peace out. I don't need this. This is not for me anyway, right? Yeah, that is very cool. And at the same time, where you are now is also exciting. Like running your business, thinking about what's next. Those pieces are equally exciting. And as much as we would like to pine for those things that were back then, like looking ahead is also really good too. But that brings us into what we're talking about and actually embracing, right? And it's so funny because as soon as you said that in our talk before, I always had these little pre-talks with everybody. I don't try not to go too deep on that pre-talk because I like hearing stories like that Detroit Pistons story now on air. So it's not like me going, what? Wow. Like I am actually wow. But when we're talking about embracing, there's two pieces to the definition that jumped out for me. One was when you think about embracing one is like holding someone as a sign of affection, like a hug, you're embracing someone, right? And the other part is the sense of accepting or supporting enthusiastically an idea. Like I'm embracing this philosophy. Like I subscribe to this, I embrace this thing, or I hug it, whatever. Either way you put it, we need to embrace ourselves where we're at right now.
Very much so. And I think, especially in these times, everybody is going through something. Every solitary person.
Yes.
That you need to embrace you in this time. Yes. So, like you said, whether it's a hug, me and my better half have a hug every solitary morning. Like if we miss it, that means we're not in the same space, which is rare. But embrace in a hug, physical, embrace you. What I kind of do in my practice at Pilates is, I'll give an example of my client on Saturday. We were doing going over, and actually, no, we were doing hundreds. And I said, how do you feel about going over today? And she looked at me, she goes, I can't do it today. I said, that's okay. I'm glad I don't force anything. Yes. Today is it's not the day. Right. Tomorrow might be the day. It might be a month from now. But in the moment, embracing what you can do right now. That's what I think. Hold on.
Yeah, I think you lost your sound there. Lost your audio.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's back. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Some reason someone's calling me. But embracing you at the moment, what your body can accept. If you're tired, go take a nap. If, your back hurts, go stretch your leg. If you're hungry, go eat. Like whatever is happening with you right now, address it, embrace it, and do it.
Yes. We need to give ourselves permission to do that because we get caught up in the, you know, grind don't stop mindset, right? Like everything is about just go, go, go. Or on the flip side, we feel lethargic and we feel like we're not, like, we just can't, like, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but that's, I think, embracing where we're at, embracing where we are at today is key. Today is the key word, because, you know, our clients came in on Friday and they can't do what they did on Wednesday because, you know, they're going through a bunch of stuff, but we assume that this is where they're at. Yeah, it's a message I need to remind myself of, you know, often, right? Because, like, I'm the type of person who likes to just drive. But yeah, just listening to our body and embracing where we're at is key.
And I think hunger is a big thing. I'm not a nutritionist. I don't get into food, but I do believe we'll sit there and go and work through lunch. And it's just not good. I realize now that when I get up, I'm guilty of the bag salad. It's easy for me. I cut the bag open, I dump the stuff in, and, you know, I keep going. I eat it and I keep going, but I eat lunch around the same time every solitary day. I think skipping that because you're on the computer or you're doing this, it just domino effects. Yes. And embracing you in the moment and taking care of you in the moment makes you good for everything else, your clients, your family, yourself. You know, some of the things that I hear some of my clients say they have, like my morning client, sometimes she doesn't eat, and instantly, if I put her on her stomach and have her do anything on the reformer on her stomach, her foot does like this. And I go, you didn't eat. And she goes, how do you know? I'm like, you didn't eat. You just didn't. It's fine. Just admit it. You didn't. She's like, no, I didn't even have my coffee. Yeah. And I just look at those little things and I see that foot moving and I'm like, you were hungry before you left. For whatever reason, you didn't eat. Stop, slow down, take you, yes, grab a banana. I don't care what it is, but keep you on top to keep going. Yes. And I believe that's all a part of embracing you in the moment.
Yes. So what's your message to the young parents out there who have, like, kids screaming in their ear and then they're doing, like, how do you, like, that's easy. My kids are in their teens. Like, I don't even know where they are right now. So that's a different story when there's other people pulling on you, right? So what's the message there? Like, what does that practically look like?
I think you just have to be easy on yourself. I think I said it before, nobody's perfect. And that's the social media stigma. You see these parents and they're made up and the kid is at the computer typing and whatever. And we've started to see the videos come out where kids are having meltdowns during class. You know, parents are trying to have meetings. I think take a deep breath. Everybody's going through it. And just step back. It's going to be there. I'll tell you something else I learned from a different position that I had, and it was a European company I worked for. He used to say to me, you're not a doctor, you're not saving anybody's lives, you're not a firefighter, you're not putting out a fire, and you're not a police officer protecting somebody from harm's way. It will be there. Step back. Yes. Nothing. And at the time I was selling baby strollers. He was like, unless a baby gets smashed in a stroller. Yes. It will be there tomorrow or 2 hours from now. Take care of what's going on now. I don't have any little ones in the house, so I empathize with parents. There's some below me. I'm in an apartment and there's some below me and I hear them screaming and hollering, and you know, I'm like, I couldn't give advice exactly on what you should do, but I do believe you should step back. Don't force it. Yes. If the kid needs to get up and run around, let him run around. My friend just told me her son thinks he's Captain Underpants. He gets on the video for class in his clothes. She leaves to go do her work. The teacher's calling her because he's on the Zoom with no clothes on. He's taken off.
Wow. He's not like 15 or anything, though. Like he's like
No,
okay.
he's like 7,
Okay.
6, 5 or 6.
All right.
But I'm like, just get him a cape and have him drape the cape
Yeah,
over his shoulders. I
just
mean, go with it.
embrace it.
Embrace it. Yep. As long as he's not showing private parts on the screen.
Yeah.
She's like, but he takes his shirt off on the thing. And the teacher was like, what are you doing? He's like, it's school time and I'm Captain Underpants. I'm like,
Sure.
what are you going to do?
Right. Yes. Craziness. That's too funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's I'm just reading some of these comments that came through here earlier. Someone's saying I was lucky to get that equipment. Too funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've been searching for, I don't have anywhere to put equipment, but I've been looking at equipment.
Well, yeah, when you start your catamaran business, that'll be next one. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be an adventure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all for adventure. We're at 53 minutes, Shay. I didn't even ask you how you found Pilates. Like, where you studied, like all those different things. So, like, can we just rattle that off real quick? For those who are just curious, like, where you actually studied, what you did?
Yep. So as I mentioned, TJ was a young lady I met in the bar.
Yes.
And then she moved to Florida, I believe. So then I kind of bounced around. There were a lot of studios I bounced around to continue to take and I actually always wanted to learn to teach. And I ended up at a Yoga Works there. Rest in peace. They didn't make it through COVID. Their studios didn't. But I ended up at a Yoga Works, and it was a Yoga Works that had Pilates equipment. It wasn't just mat Pilates.
Oh, cool.
So it was a class with 6 people in it, I believe. And I took it once or twice a week, and I asked the instructor where she went for training. Now, I will say I did this on a whim. She said, I went to this place. I choose not to mention names.
Sure.
And my training, Sonia and I have had this conversation. My training was classic and it was extremely rigid. Okay. And I was constantly told if a person couldn't do the movement exactly like she taught it, then they shouldn't do it. There was very little modification and they just weren't ready. Things like, their thighs have to touch. Or, right. If their stomach is too big to get over, then tell them to go lose weight and come back. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not. I finished it. I took it with a grain of salt, and I finished my training. But I did it on a whim. She said they're starting a program. I think it was like, she told me on a Saturday. I called the lady on Monday. They were starting the program a week later. And I took it on a whim.
Yeah.
I jumped right in and I did all comprehensive. It took me about a year to get because again, I was working full time. So to get all of my hours in, as well as every piece of equipment, classic exercise on every piece of equipment, I learned, and that was kind of how I got into it. I've only taught privates for adults, and there's been a couple of younger, my better half back there, he mentors some younger kids that play basketball. Okay. So I've had a couple sessions with some teams when they were in school full time. Yeah. But as far as like adult group classes, I have not done. I like privates. I like catering to the individual person.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
We're like all over the place, but like the actual Pilates stories is like, it's good. and that's exactly, I just love wherever the conversation goes, that's exactly where we're supposed to go today. So yes. Thank you so much for joining me, and for all of your people and for everyone who joined us today in the comment section. I really appreciate it. And,
I had a great time. This was great. I had no idea what to expect. I admit I was a little bit nervous because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Like Pilates, there hasn't been much.
Yes.
I have my 3 or 4 clients. I have been teaching all through COVID. I haven't stopped.
Okay.
But it was 3 clients that I knew what they do,
Yes.
where they were.
Right.
I still haven't taken anyone new. I've had requests, but I'm not for it yet.
Yeah.
But I've been teaching the entire time, and they've been so grateful and so appreciative, which also makes me feel well, because I know that I'm doing something that makes them feel good.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm cheering you on through this next adventure. Keep me posted on that too. And
I will.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me today. Such a great, fun chat.
Thank you so much. I saw another good comment too. Who was that?
Joel, I think,
JC.
yes, it's Joel Crosby.
Hey, Joel.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, that's so good. Awesome. Okay, I'll sign you off. I'll send you the replay later,
All right.
and we're good. Thanks so much, Shay.
Thanks so much. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.